Oh, what is up, everybody? It is the day before a book release, so you know what that means? We're not talking about that. We're going to talk all about awards tonight. Do they matter? Do they not? Do we care? Should be a really fun conversation. We're also going to mention a little bit about the SAG and WGA strike that's going on. Overall, should be a great night. So sit down, buckle up, and don't do a dang thing, because it's Wes's job to punch it. Welcome to the Living Force, a UTD Network podcast. Tonight, all about awards. We're not giving out any. We're just going to see if they matter at all. But I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight is the full complement, the full cast, the full crew, starting off with Dr. Corey Helton. How are you? How was your week off?
It's been great, actually. So I've been playing a lot of sim racing this week. Actually, I got a new monitor and I got rid of the triples, which is blasphemy to sim racing people. But yesterday I drove in the sim rig for literally 7 hours. I've never spent that much time in it before.
Yo, that's some Ready Player One shit right there.
Like, I know, dude. Like 10 a.m. until like 5 p.m. yesterday, I was in the sim rig and I had so much fun. And something happened today that's never happened before. And I
think won a race.
You got bored.
I've never won a race.
You sold it all.
I've never won a race, actually, genuinely. Never won a race.
Wow.
My guess was a good one.
I know, it was a good one. This morning, I got up and I was like, man, I really want to get in a sim rig today. That has never happened before. I'm spending so much time in it. And I think it's because I got a new monitor and my eyes are more comfortable now and it was more fun. I like the way it looks better than the triples. And it's crazy. This would be a downgrade to most people in the sim racing community, but I'm a big fan of the ultra wide monitor. So yeah, I had a really, really good time playing in that. But yeah, it's been a great week. It's been nice to use this expensive ass toy that I have in my apartment. And I go back and forth between like, man, I'm really glad I have this too. This was way too much money. What a horrible mistake. Like literally every time I sit in it. So, you know.
And that's life, man. Fun. Speaking of an incredibly expensive and horrible mistake, we also have Dr. Charles Hankel. What's up, buddy?
Hey, guys. How's everyone doing? I did some driving yesterday, too. It was in my actual car on actual roads, and it was only about 30 minutes. But, you know, I enjoyed it, too. I always like driving. I especially like driving in the rain, weirdly enough. Sure. I really enjoy driving in the rain.
This is not that kind of podcast, Charles.
Well, it could be, though. It could be.
We're going to have listeners driving in the rain right now. Hey, if you're driving in the rain, just know you're kind of like Charles. Feel that. Enjoy that.
Kind of like Charles.
You know? But you know who you could never be like because you are mere mortals and he is our freaking God among men. It's the guy who was on time despite a long day at work. It's Wes Jenkins. Hey, buddy.
Got him on, man.
What's up, everyone? Charles, I thought you were going somewhere with that. You're like, thing that I do love is driving in the rain. That's it.
I did that then.
Yeah, I was. So I usually leave. I try to leave work. What time is it? So I try to leave work like a couple hours before the show starts, right? So I'm walking out, and I got a message like last week about this customer that was coming in and said, hey, if you got time, stop by. It's like the time that I leave is the time that this meeting started. So I'm like, I was like, I didn't see this guy the entire day. So I was like, all right, I'm fine. And the meeting room is right outside the elevators. So I was like, damn, right when I'm leaving and get out of the elevator, I'm going to see these people and I have to go into that meeting for like an hour and a half. So I get out of the elevator and there's nobody in that meeting room. And I was like, perfect. I walk around the corner, go to another corner where my other elevator bank is, and I see the guy in another giant meeting room, and he's like, come on in, we've been waiting for you. And I was like, no!
That's impossible.
So I was like, yeah, I guess I could stay, for 15, 20 minutes or whatever. And it's hour and a half of constant jargon, business talk, sales bullshit, and
Ew.
I'm waiting for my exit point, and there's never an ending point for me to be like, okay, I mean, it's time for me to go. Like, I gotta get past traffic. It was
You gotta slap your knee and be like,
time.
well, now it's about that
Geez,
time.
Really nice to
know.
meet you, but yeah, they caught me. I got caught. So
You should just like start using the phrase "our time is up" and like just see if that gets you out of situations you don't want to be in.
or just
Time's
bring
up.
an
Our-
old
our
All right,
time
time's
is
up.
I'm sorry.
Then you get up and leave. Just get up and leave.
well, our
Time's up.
time's up.
Sorry. I would
Sorry.
love to stay, but our time is up. Like I don't know what to tell
Do you
you.
use that with patience, Charles? That's a good one. I need to remember that.
Not in those exact words, but yeah, something like that.
Charles, you used that when you and Nicole came over for dinner, so I guess I'm seeing now what that's about.
Time's
well,
up.
our-
A lot
our
of different
time's up.
scenarios.
In
Well-
Futurama, Zoidberg
Yeah.
says to somebody one time, he
Zoidberg.
goes, "Spare me your life story," and I think about that literally every time I'm with a patient
Jeez.
that just won't
Yep.
shut up. And I really want to say it. One day I'm going to use it. When somebody pisses me off enough, I'm going to use it with somebody. I want to tell a patient to spare me their life story and just
I
get
can't.
out.
Don't be
I
mean.
can't tell you how many times I've said like, "When did this rash pop up?" And they're like, "So I was born in 1947."
Dude,
And you're like,
every
no.
freaking day. Last
Not the
week,
question.
listen, I was out at Dr. What's that guy? Dr. Johnson, I think, out there next to Walmart across the street from the. Anyway, so
Don't care.
my cousin,
Don't
he just told me, I got this thing on my arm, and then I was talking to my cousin about it. Literally every patient interaction. Listen, when you go to the doctor and they ask what's wrong with you, just tell them the answer to their question, all right?
In
Yeah.
as
my
few
rant.
words as possible.
That's my
Do they
rant
ever
of the
look up at
day.
your guys' degree on your wall and be like, "Oh, I know someone that went there. Did you know them?"
No.
Does anyone ever do that?
Nope.
I did.
also
Maybe it's
have
just
my
'cause I went to a
medical
big
degree.
state school
Framed in my closet.
Yeah,
So,
my
you know.
degree is over here. It's not at
where
the
it
office.
belongs.
Yeah.
Well, see,
It's
that's
all
the
right.
problem. That's the problem. Oh man, well I didn't do anything nearly as exciting as hating patients or driving in the rain, Charles. My goodness. But I did. I gotta tell you guys, I saw 2 movies this last week. I'm seeing 2 movies this week. It's summer movie time. I'm very stoked about that. I saw The Flash on Friday. It was bad, and then the movie's not good.
I heard that it was terrible.
It's-
And they
the thing
canceled
ab-
Batgirl for that too, didn't they? It's
They
ridiculous.
need whoever made that decision needs to be put through a paper shredder. It's not good. But on Sunday I saw Mission Impossible 7. Amazing time. Great time at the movies. Go see it in IMAX. Go see it in Dolby. Have a grand time. I'm so glad that we're back in like the summer of seeing movies. And
You know
what kind of
though?
what?
You know what though? If
What?
if you complete 7 impossible missions, I would invite you to like check your definition of impossible. You know what I mean? Like these all kind of sound like mission.
I mean,
Probably.
Mission highly implausible has a little bit of less of a ring to it,
Mi-
Charles.
Mission
I
maybe
know, but
will
at a
be
certain
fine.
At a certain point, they're not that
Yeah,
impossible.
well, that's like the IMF, which is Ethan
tell me
Hunt,
the
Tom
odds,
Cruise's
Charles.
character. Like he literally works for the IMF, which stands for Impossible Mission Force. So
Oh
like,
my god.
That's
Oh,
a
that's
terrible
horrible.
name.
Does he
Movie
fall
rocks,
through?
does
he fall through the ceiling and barely touch the floor in every movie?
no,
or
that's
is that just
one
in
movie,
one?
just
That's
in one.
movie.
Da
But
da
I-
da da da.
No, he
da,
does that
da,
when he
da.
jumps over the wall of the Vatican too.
But I did watch 1, 4, 5, and 6 in like the week leading up to seeing 7. So they're on Paramount. Great time. But also, guys, what kind of week would it be if I didn't tell you my latest Brandon Sanderson reading update? Because that's who I am now. Corey, I am what you and Charles made me, as Darth Vader would say. I'm reading Words of Radiance. It's the second Stormlight Archives book. It's red,
Good God, it's a big boy. How many pages
and I
is
am
that?
this far in. It is
You need to
I'm-
slow
I'm
down, my friend.
very generous. He's written like 30 books. I'm not
I'm
gonna
worried
write
about your health.
Yeah,
It's
we're
about
gonna have an
1,000
intervention with you.
Are you remembering to eat? Are you eating,
No.
Eric?
Well,
I'm not
every
sleeping, I
day,
can tell you that.
every day I need to wake up and before work or at lunch I need to do my Fortnite daily challenges, and then I need to read my book, and then I try to play Final Fantasy 16 when I have time, and then Starfield's coming out in September. Overall, Words of Radiance
that
is really
sounds
good.
like
I'm
a lot of
300 pages in.
necessary, not at all arbitrary things. I'm glad you're doing all that.
Some of us need to find joy in our life, Charles. Not all of us have resigned ourselves to our
Just
misery
go
like
drive
you
in the
have.
rain, bro.
Charles is like driving in the rain. All right?
It's the simple things.
Oh man. Well, hey, you guys know who has resigned themselves to joy in this life? It's our Patreon community over at utini.com/Patreon or patreon.com/utini. That first link doesn't work. But you know who found the right link that does work? I got there. It's Kyle Bruce, who became an annual patron on Wednesday. Thank you, Kyle. Welcome to the ranks. We hope you enjoyed this next year of content and awesomeness, and knowing that for the next 12 months, you are an integral part of why Utini keeps on running. In order to fully take advantage of it, make sure you get the Utini Network podcast feed into your RSS, or your RSS feed into your podcast catcher of choice, except Spotify. Sorry. Please fix that. That's so annoying. I use Spotify, but I had to listen to my Utini podcast in podcasts. Hate it. But if you don't hate it, you can listen to new episodes of the Ghost Crew that are coming up bi-weekly. The Cosmic Force is back. We didn't talk about this last week, everyone. The Cosmic Force has returned.
They
Our
have
comic
returned
podcast
in full force. Yes, we promised at the end of that that they posted a final episode. We promised we'd come back eventually, and it did. About a year later, right? Like, so Wes has been working hard with that team to help produce that. Wes is kind of our head of production, if you will.
Well, I don't want to put any kind of accolades on me. I mean, those guys are the ones that really put the work into it and got this thing revamped and ready to go. But I mean, they have great banter. Couple new faces, or a new face, I guess.
A new face.
Parker from our TikTok. If you watch, follow us on TikTok. Parker's in there a lot. He's
our Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade review video coming out tomorrow. Parker's doing that.
That's right.
Parker's wonderful. Yeah. So for releases, if anybody would like to know, Patreon release, the Cosmic Force will go out on Tuesdays, and then general public will get it the next day on Wednesday. And that also gets accompanied by a video, the video podcast, where you can see a lot more. You see the page of the comics. You can see kind of some more like interaction between the guys. So it's going to be fun. They're going to be every 2 weeks. You're not going to get it every week because there's just so much comic content that if you condense it a little bit and give it more time to get the details easy to read for new viewers and I guess advanced viewers alike to love it. So check it out. Wednesdays, they're coming back. The Cosmic Force.
Absolutely. And that show is no longer live as well. It used to be a live show. Right. It's now just a pre-recorded show. But enjoy it at your leisure. So very excited, very proud of those folks. So if you're on Patreon, of course, get those early feeds, get the exclusive stuff, and enjoy everything on there. Now, this week, we only have one very important story, but it does deserve it its own Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
Okay, so it's been a little bit of a whirlwind week in Hollywood where they make the Star Wars, if you were unaware. That's not true. They usually make it in Pinewood Studios in London. But Hollywood's been wild because everyone's on strike this week. If you've been out of the know, SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, both of those unions are on strike right now. This has not happened for 60 years. The last time both of these unions were on strike at the same time, do you guys know who the president of SAG was? Any guesses?
President of SAG?
Who was the president of the Screen Actors Guild last time this happened?
One president of SAG,
Johnny Carson.
let alone V1.
Nope.
Johnny
Ronald
Carson.
Reagan was the president of SAG.
Oh my God.
Last time this happened.
Yeah, I read that.
So now that means Fran Drescher, the nanny and the current president of SAG, she will now.
God,
that's it.
Wes.
That was incredible, Wes.
How the hell did you just pull that out of your ass, bro?
Wow.
Because it's the nanny, dude.
Well, she's going to be the president in the next couple of years, apparently now. But big news is that all productions that have basically professional union actors and writers are shut down right now. Nothing is being filmed. Nothing is being written. No scripts are coming out. The last time just the writers went on strike was 2007. If y'all remember the first season of Heroes being really good and the rest of it being awful, it's because of that. So what does this mean for Star Wars? Basically, anything that was being written or being filmed has stopped right now. This will likely mean there's a lot of delays that are happening, but things like Ahsoka are still coming out. That thing is done. That thing is ready for next month. Andor Season 2, I believe, was already all written before the writer's strike happened. I'm not sure how much they got in, but obviously they're not filming now because they're all SAG actors. But, number one, we as Utini, we as everyone in the Living Force give our unwavering support for the actors and the writers. who are basically trying to get health insurance and all the good stuff and trying to basically billionaires need to give people money. It's not a hard thing. We give them
That is correct.
total support. Like
Bob
that's very
Iger's
easy.
comments on this were
Oh my God.
unacceptable, in my opinion.
Yes,
He was
absolutely.
I've read Bob Iger's book, and generally he has some really great leadership lessons, and he's a decent leader, I think. And it's not like he's fixed a lot of the things after he replaced what's his a-hole face that
The
was
other
terrible. Yeah, the other Bob. But man, Iger's comments pissed me off this week, man. Like, he was a real big douchebag about that. He was like, basically, we just have to outlast them until, they can't pay the rent anymore. And then they'll cave to our demands. And some of the stuff they're asking about too, like they want background extras and stuff just to be scanned and sign their whole life away.
Yep.
Like,
Paid for one day and then they can use you forever.
That is unfreaking acceptable. I'm like really into AI and interested in this. And
it's a good tool.
Yeah, we use the tool for different stuff, and that pisses me off. I think this is where we're going to see society change. I think a lot in regards to AI is we have to figure out how to deal with likeness, because you have to be able to own your own voice and the way you look and your genetics. You have to own that shit. So it makes me mad. Bob Iger, get your shit together. Maybe
a lot of time and energy could have been saved. We could have learned this lesson a long time ago if more people just watched the Disney Channel original movie Smart House.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles.
I will say,
You're
it's
old,
terrible.
Wes. We know.
It's terrible. I will say that, people in the production community outside of the guild members, right? The union members are very confused on how to behave, because we have very mixed feelings about this at Utini, because we really we want the writers and the creators, the people whose input on films and projects actually does make a difference, not the producers, not Kathleen Kennedy, not the people whose names are at the end because they're rich, right? Not those people. Like, these people that actually matter working on these projects. And everybody's very confused on how to handle this. And we have like a 72 comment thread in our company Slack channels about what are we supposed to do with this information? What are creators supposed to do? And we've essentially decided to follow the general advice of the union, correct, Eric?
Yeah. So essentially, the biggest issue with this was, even obviously this hasn't happened in 60 years to this level, but even the last writer's strike, content creation did not exist as we know it. Right? So influencers, that's been the big thing. Like, you see these TikTokers that go to movie premieres and things. Should they go? Because part of the actors' strike is that none of the actors or directors will go to movie premieres to promote their work. That's a big thing. And because of that, a lot of production houses will be outsourcing that to non-union people like influencers to then go to red carpets. That's called scabbing. You're causing a picket line doing what would be paid work. According to the union, and like Corey said, we've done a ton of looking into this. A lot of people have been sending emails and posting their responses to Twitter. Thank you so much for keeping all of us informed. Essentially, if you're being paid by a production studio to do promotional work, like for a circuit or something like that, no, cannot do. If you are writing reviews or doing like entertainment journalism or something like that, that is aside from that, all good. That is not prohibited. That is also promoting the workers' work and showing them how valuable the writing and the acting is. This is directly from the unions. There's an article in Variety that got posted in accordance with SAG. So over the last couple days, as we've been following that, we as Utini will continue our coverage. We're not, because, spoiler, we're not paid by anybody in the official lines. We'd love to once this is all over. Once it's done, feel free. Bob, we know you got to work it out. But then feel free to shoot us an email. But
Bob, quit being a douche, but then email us and give us some
man.
money.
But because of that, our workings will stay largely the same. You're gonna get your reviews, you're gonna get your coverage from us. We're also gonna be very frank as the strike goes on and keep you guys posted on how everything is going. So that's where we are. If you want to be able to help, I know that the writers have a writers creative fund that people are posting about. If you can't go out and pick it and you want to help, do so. But we just kind of want to let y'all know where we're coming from. Thank you to everyone sharing resources again online for folks like us and bigger creators to kind of figure out how the unions want us to work, because we love what they make and hope they get paid more and fairly to do it, because I believe it's, let me check. Yeah, it's less than 0.1% of the operating budgets of these studios. So that would be
Bob
Great.
Iger got a $35 million bonus last year, so kiss my ass. That's how
He
I
makes
feel
more in
about
an
that.
hour than I do in many months.
That is
which
correct.
is-
That was his
But-
bonus. It wasn't a salary. I think his
That is a
salary
bonus.
is like 28 million. I think I read. So this
know
is
what's-
35 on top of 28. So come on.
You know what's amazing about his bonus too? It's that Obama meme with the medal. He's like, "Here, have a bonus, me."
You know,
Like giving
well,
him his own
the
little
board of
bonus.
directors awards it, but still, yeah. I
Ah,
mean,
God.
it's dumb and it makes me mad. And literally,
Yeah.
the writers and the actors are like the people that matter more than
Yeah.
90% of the people. So
God, now I'm just imagining him going into a board meeting like, "Hey guys, don't I deserve a whale bonus? Can I have a whale
Oh.
$30 million, please?" That's how you sound now, Bob. Until you give people money, you're a baby voice character now on this show.
I hate it. Hate it.
You
I
know
like
who
the
is-
guy too. I like the guy too. Listen, you
I
can't
wanted
have
to.
you can't have heroes. You can't have heroes. There are no
No.
heroes. Your heroes will always let you down. You know.
Don't meet Corey at Celebration.
You either die
Don't
a
go up
hero
to
or
him.
live long enough
That's
to become
correct.
the villain.
How is
That's
his
right.
bonus more than his salary? That's
Because-
That's a good
incredible.
question.
Because of capitalism, Wes.
Because
that's
of
why.
great-
because it's
Because
all
of great
fake.
negotiating.
Because of
his
greed.
lawyer.
Yeah.
It's his lawyer, and because of greed, and because I have a whole bunch of George Lucas quotes about this. I'm going to actually read one right now because this
Do it.
is perfect. This is perfect. He said, studio executives are generally not the most sophisticated people in the world, and you will find that if you go, and I hope you don't, but you don't want to be oppressed by people who are not as smart as you are. And I'm dumb. That's a George Lucas quote. Studio
He knew.
executives are generally not
He
the most
knew.
sophisticated people in the world. I mean, he knew, man. He knew. It's like,
Yeah.
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 that's why he did things that he did. So
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
Whatever.
but stay tuned, everybody. You know, keep watching your stuff. Again, when Ahsoka comes out, like, watching those streaming numbers, all those residuals have to be fixed. That's a huge part of it. Like, streaming residuals are not paying mortgages or rents or electric bills like they used to, but that is not being prohibited by SAG. That is expressly, they said repeatedly, watch the content, enjoy the content. They made it for us, but the strike is supposed to be disruptive, so stay tuned. Now, who are not on strike are authors, because they've never gotten paid. And they no. But,
That's correct.
but
though.
thankfully, Star Wars books are continuing to come out. As we said earlier in the show, Inquisitor: Rise of the Red Blade, this lovely book behind me, is coming out tomorrow. As always, my written review and Parker's video review are going to come out tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. No spoilers in those, so check that out to see if you want to pick up the book, and then we'll be talking about it on this show in about a month. And if you like, StarWars.com actually dropped a guest article today written by Delilah S. Dawson that had like 5 behind-the-scenes things about her writing the book. She gave a little love to Mike Chen's Brotherhood, which we all enjoyed greatly, and a couple other things, so go ahead, check that out, and then make sure if you're going to get that book, use the Utini affiliates on the book profile page. You know how this goes. Go to the release schedule on utini.com, click the book, and get ready. Oh, yeah, there it is. Look at that, Wes. 5 behind the pages secrets of Star Wars, Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade. We got to do something about this.
AI 100% wrote that. You can tell because there's so many colons.
There's
AI
so many
uses too many
colons.
colons. Yeah, that's a thing. It's a thing.
That's a whole lot, but it's a cool article because usually it's like in an interview with the author, but Delilah S. Dawson wrote this whole thing. So
Nice.
straight from her mouth, she writes a lot about the book. So check that out, and I look forward to sharing my thoughts with y'all. I will say this because the embargo is up. In my review tomorrow, you will read this. The book starts slow. There's a decent amount of the book that is not Inquisitor, that she's not an Inquisitor for. We've read some of the previews that have had her as a Jedi, so be aware that is how the book starts. Be aware of that, because it happens for a little bit. It's a solid book. Again, you'll see more in the full review, but just so y'all know. Okay, let's talk about some awards, everybody, because theoretically, this strike will end, because we have some award shows that need to happen and people need to be at them. Because earlier this week, before the SAG strike went into effect, they did announce the Emmy Award nominations for this upcoming year, and Star Wars got some love. It's happened a little bit here and there, but tonight I thought it would be fun for us to, one, go over some of the Emmy nominations that got announced, but then kind of figure out where do awards lie in Star Wars? Because there seems to have been this slight disconnect over the history of Star Wars, with being influential versus not being recognized by critics. Does that matter and all that stuff? But I'd love to start out, fellas, by congratulating Andor, aka the best show ever made, and Obi-Wan, also a tremendous show. And if you don't like it, you're probably wrong. Because Andor got 8 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Drama Series, aside shows like Succession, Better Call Saul. That's right, Andor's right there. And it got cinematography, directing, music composition, main title music, sound editing, visual effects, and writing. And Obi-Wan got Best Limited or Anthology Series, Outstanding Fantasy Costuming, Editing, and Sound Mixing. So, and The Mandalorian got some too, but I didn't like that show as much, so I didn't put him on here. So, it's my show, fight me. So, fellas, I want to ask you to start us off here. Purely for these Emmy nominations this year, surprised by any of these? Or did you feel like that seemed about right, based on what we saw?
I'm surprised by the Kenobi stuff. We all loved Kenobi like endlessly and had an absolute blast. Show. The cinematic community had a criticism for the show, and I'm kind of surprised to see so much stuff on there.
Yeah, that is fair. There wasn't as much like overall love, and I feel like retroactively too. I think everyone had a great time during it, and they were like, "Well, maybe I didn't like that as much as I thought." Shut up.
I know. They read everybody's shitty opinions on the internet, and then I guess I didn't like it as much. Like, shut up. They did.
These are
Why
kind
should
Exactly.
they're kind of obscure awards. Outstanding sound mixing for a limited or anthology series or movie. It's like a lot. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a lot of below. The limited ones are always interesting because that's like your American Horror Stories and you know your limited run shows. But it is funny because they got to do the sound editing for this, sound mixing for this, outstanding fantasy sci-fi costumes for a limited series, and I'm like, that's a very specific amount of stuff.
I can.
You know
I
what
can
they should do?
Get the
They should break it
costumes,
up with
but
some
yeah.
colons.
They should. They should. But of course, Charles, you are our resident, number one Obi-Wan guy. You obviously love the show. But were you surprised that that Obi-Wan got this much love?
Yes and no. Here, answer this question for me first, and then I'll tell you for sure.
Excellent.
Who votes for this? What, like, is there like a body of established people that are in charge of nominations for Emmys?
Yeah, the Television Academy, I think, right?
The Television Academy. Okay. Sounds like
think
people
so.
that know what they're talking about. I don't care then what Twitter warriors say Kenobi wasn't good because this or that or the other thing. It was freaking great, guys. It was freaking great. So, no, I'm not surprised. I am also not surprised, though, that Andor got more nominations than Kenobi did, because, I mean, it was literally, as far as Star Wars TV goes, it was a masterpiece. So, no, not surprised that Kenobi got as many nominations as it did. Is there not like an outstanding lead actor or actress in these series? Are there not Emmys for these things?
So here's the thing I wanted to speak on. That's my surprise, right? Is because I was thrilled that all these below the line essentially categories, like technical categories, kind of got a lot of Star Wars love. They have a little more in the past, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I was a little shocked that there was no acting love for Andor. Specifically, I think we all really loved Diego Luna in the show. I think that, we loved a lot of them, but specifically Stellan Skarsgård as Luthen and Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma. I think were two people that really, really deserved it, especially when in Best Supporting Actor for a Drama, I think there were 8 nominees. And there were 4 actors from The White Lotus and 4 actors from Succession. 2 shows only. Now that being said, I will be honest. I've not watched The White Lotus. I've heard it's great. I did watch Succession. Every single one of the Succession nominations is deserved. I think it's one of the best seasons of television of all time. But I was like, I really wish that Stellan or Genevieve had just like taken that extra step and crossed over, because the amount of legitimacy that kind of would have given the Star Wars community, which I actually want to ask you guys about, like I think would have been great, but no, let's go into that. Like, do you think that acting awards specifically give more legitimacy to Star Wars as a brand in the eyes of the public?
Yes, to a degree. I think that they do, because look at, for instance, what happened even amongst Star Wars fans when they announced what's the upcoming High Republic Young Jedi
Young
show
Jedi
that's
Adventures?
coming out. Maybe, is that what it is?
Or
The
no?
one with Jude Law? Is that the one with Jude Law?
Oh no, a Skeleton Crew. Skeleton
Okay,
Crew.
thank you. Skeleton Crew. Look at how people reacted when Jude Law was announced as being in the show. Be like, holy crap, that's actually a really good actor.
Oh sure.
And I mean, interestingly, the roots of Star Wars are in casting virtually unknown actors for the most part. I mean, Sir Alec Guinness was Sir Alec Guinness, right? But for the most part, it's people that aren't known, and then they kind of come into their own through the franchise sometimes, and then go on to do great things or what have you. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that if you can pull in bigger names, more impressive names, you're going to pull in more people that just like watching these really popular actors and actresses, and you will then broaden the kind of audience for the show in general, and thereby I think defeat that common trope that like, oh no, that's just a dumb space show, you know?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think that's why, you know, we asked our title this week, do the awards actually matter? I think in a way it's yes, because it's exactly what you're saying there. I think that a lot of folks, like myself included, let's say when the Oscar nominations come out, I every year try to watch every single nominee for Best Picture, because I'm like, this is, whether it's for me or not, whether it's my style or not, there is a body of people that's saying, you know what, I really like this. This is worth your time as a viewer. I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. And I think that there are people that maybe didn't like Star Wars or never grew up with Star Wars because they thought it's not great cinema, blah, blah, blah. The show has to be just choppy. But then you see all of these actual nominations, and then it gives legitimacy to an entirely different group, you know? Because folks like us are going to watch Star Wars no matter what. But people that are just watching your Successions and your Yellow Jackets and Better Call Sauls maybe won't give it a shot. But then you see Andor nominated for Outstanding Drama Series. You see Mandalorian Season 1. That was on the remember, that got nominated for Outstanding Drama next to Game of Thrones and stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I should try it. And I think that's really what these award shows nowadays do more than anything. They tell you, hey, this is worth your time. Go ahead and try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is it kind of the simple fact that there's just more eyes on Succession and White Lotus than there is on Andor? Is that a fact? I was trying to look up like the actual viewers from White Lotus and Succession.
Isn't everyone?
There's nothing
no,
like
streaming numbers are which is also part of the strike, right? Is that they don't tell anyone.
Exactly. I can't pinpoint exactly what the numbers are, and you can't like how many people are watching it in the same house and all that other crap. So used to be like the Nielsen ratings was a thing to go to. Nielsen ratings, young guys, is the
I remember Nielsen ratings, old buck.
Television.
Absolutely.
Okay. But that's what they used to go off of, and like just stepping back and seeing like Succession and White Lotus, I hear a lot of people talk about it, but I don't hear a lot of people talk about Star Wars. It's trying to get that foot into the mainstream to where like my parents would talk about it. Like, hey, have you seen Andor? Because my parents, like, I don't know, they watch the news in like the Astros and that's it. So if they came to me and were like, oh, Andor got an Emmy, I'd be like, no way, you're just yanking my chain or whatever. But I just think there's more eyes on these other shows. But like you said, these famous actors, when they get cast into these shows and they get these nominations or even win the award, that helps after the fact, right? So maybe in the next line, the next season or the next show coming up, we'll get more eyes on it. But I just think we're still in that niche where we can't, grab mass audiences the way that these broader shows can get. It's just, it's not fair.
Well, and there's this interesting thing now with like, literally the idea of prestige television, right? That's like literally the phrase for stuff that kind of started like with The Wire, was in The Sopranos, like that time when HBO was really like, hey, we're putting out movie level drama, because TV was not even thought of as real for like the 90s and the early aughts. Like, film actors aren't going to degrade themselves. And now if you can get a limited series on HBO, you're golden. Kate Winslet's doing this stuff. So I think it's interesting now that TV is getting that reputation. If we can keep Star Wars at the level that these bodies are going to also like, despite how fun it can be, Marvel shows aren't getting nominated for Outstanding Drama and Emmys. They're not getting these kind of things, whereas Star Wars has now seemingly broken this plane. Because I want to tell you guys, I did some research before this. Because we've had Star Wars TV in animated form for a while, right? And I looked it up. Clone Wars, his entire run, got 1 Emmy nomination for Outstanding Animated Program in 2004. Did not win, but that's the only Emmy it received.
What season of Clone Wars would that have been? I wonder.
I think it was season 1, actually.
That's ridiculous.
Not a lot going on there. Rebels got 4 Emmy nominations total. Couple for Outstanding Children's Program, some for music, didn't win any. Now, The Mandalorian, though, 48 Emmy nominations and 14 wins. A lot of those are they're all technical, right? So they're when they showed, we remember that first season when we saw the volume for the first time and everyone's like, oh my God, this is the future. And now we're like, please stop using the volume for everything. but at the time,
It's true.
it was pretty big, and I think it deserved it. But this was the one that blew my mind the most. All Star Wars movies in history combined, all saga films, Rogue One solo, 34 Oscar nominations total, and 9 wins, all below the line categories, no acting, no directing, and not a single win since Empire Strikes Back. In anything.
Wow, not anything?
Anything.
That's
No
not even
Oscars
like-
at least.
Nope.
None of the
Sound design.
CGI.
Scroll
none
down,
of that
Wes.
shit
Scroll down,
A
Wes.
couple of ones.
That's Return
Oh,
of the
we
Jedi got a special
ach-
achievement.
Special achievement award. That's not fair.
That doesn't count. Now,
What is
now
that?
scroll down.
What is-
Nominated. Star
Aren't they
Wars has
all
not won an
special
Oscar since the
achievements?
80s.
They're Oscars.
Yeah.
Wow.
So tell me this. Why do you guys think Star Wars has won so little since Empire, despite the innovation, despite, the themes have been iconic. Everything says it's Lucas changing the industry. But clearly, there has been a huge gap between what the critics or general public agree since New Hope won 6 of the 8, right? Is it just because that changed everything and then everyone got bored? Like, why is there this disparity?
I want to answer this question in the form of another George Lucas quote.
Oh, no.
Perfect.
God.
I was hoping you would.
All right, another George Lucas. Here you go. The movie industry has turned into a bit of a circus. It always has been there, but it's now gotten to be a circus without any substance behind it. And I get blamed for a lot of that. But at the end, if you go into Star Wars and take the time to actually see what's going on, there's a lot more substance there than circus. That's a great
Wow.
quote, actually.
Well,
That's why.
Good for
because
you, George.
these freaking awards don't matter. It's a really who even decides this stuff? Charles, you asked that question earlier, and I didn't even understand the answer.
Intellectual.
So
No, they're
Oscars.
not.
Well, yeah. So
sitting in a boardroom.
This is a great question. This because this is now where all my acting nerdery comes out, because
Tell
each
us
of
the
them are
answers.
different, right? So the SAG Awards, the SAG union that's on strike, right? The SAG Awards are actually what actors love the most, because if you're in SAG, if you're an actor in SAG, you get to vote for the SAG Awards. So it's kind of like your peers that are on sets doing stuff vote for SAG. They know what's going on. The Academy, as the Friendly Gamer says in the chat, a bunch of voters. A lot of people get brought in every year, and over the years, it's gotten much more diverse. It's thousands and thousands of people. You have to be associated with film in some way. But for many years, it's kind of gotten this reputation as being this old guard kind of really kind of dull group of folks. But in the last 10
Who's
or
that?
15 years,
Who's that? The Oscars?
The
yeah, the
Academy.
Oscars are the Television Academy.
Okay.
Or no, Television Academy is the Emmys. The Oscars are the Academy, the Academy of
Okay.
Motion Pictures.
Yes.
And they are the folks that vote on it. They're all involved some way. And they seem to like
War
a
movies.
mixture of playing it. Yeah, war movies. They love war movies.
They freaking
and
love
sad
war
movies.
movies.
But
yeah.
not when they're in the stars.
Yeah. But the last few years have been interesting because you have Everything Everywhere All at Once winning Best Picture, Parasite winning Best Picture, Moonlight winning Best Picture, all these things that are much more different. And now we have things like franchise entertainment, which Star Wars wasn't when New Hope came out, right? That was original IP. And it's the question of, like, if you're in a franchise, is the best you can ever hope for a nomination? Is a nomination for Andor as good as a win for Succession, for instance? You know, because we know we can never win.
I
Maybe?
think in a way,
I think
yeah.
that's stupid.
I mean,
It might be.
it is dumb, but you're absolutely right that they do seem to award the new stuff, like the stuff that's unique. Like there's a reason that,
right.
you know, everyone talks about when A New Hope came out, how that opening shot with the Star Destroyer coming over the top, like, was just like life changing. Okay, there's like 47 of those shots in every Star Wars movie that's out now. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. It doesn't have the same shine to it while all this new stuff is all still coming out. That's not to say that A New Hope is the best Star Wars film. I don't think it is. I don't think anyone probably on this podcast thinks it is, but it was at the time a groundbreaking thing. Yeah. So it's just, you lose that ability to have that newness and to like there's a spark when something new comes out and everyone's like, oh my God, have you seen this thing? Have you seen this thing? You don't do that for new Star Wars movies unless you're kind of in the nerd community, because it's like, yeah, in 1977 I saw it.
I mean, I guess there's also a point of that with us with the books, like Light of the Jedi. We were like, this new thing, this is amazing, oh my God. That was the last book that really kind of lit the fire for everybody simultaneously, because it hadn't happened since Force Awakens, you know?
Right. So that I think that they made a new standard whenever they won these Oscars. Like, so when episode 4 comes out, they broke that glass ceiling, set the bar already. So they're above that now, and it's not getting any better until episode 5, which is crazy. Even like only like 3 years later. But after that, the bar has been set, and then everybody else is kind of up there with them. They've surpassed that. And has Star Wars surpassed that? Have they come up with something new? That's kind of unfair, right? Where they have to innovate and have something new and creative and something that nobody else is doing every single movie. That's like, that can't be done. That can't be done.
Do you guys, I think there's a spectrum to it, right? Because things like Lord of the Rings, for instance, like Return of the King clean up, right?
Yes.
And it was like
most Oscar wins of all time for a single film.
Yeah, and it was the third film in a series, but it's something that has like an ending like that even is a little bit different than something that's just ongoing forever and ever. Like right now, sitting right here, would anyone here think it likely, like more likely than not, that a future Star Wars film wins an Oscar?
No. But only because Charles, you made a great point right there, is that for franchises, the last one, if you nail it, gets a lot of praise. Like Return of the King. Whereas I think the problem is that now Star Wars is infinite, and we should never believe them if they say it's ending, because they already said that with 9. And they've already, and I'm excited for it.
I rant and bitch about that so many times. The marketing was the end of the Skywalker saga. Like, fuck you. No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Dang.
Tell us how you really feel, Corey.
I know. I'm so mad about that still. It's so stupid.
But I think it's a valid point, you know?
It is a valid point. It is a valid point.
Like, we like endings as a society, which is so ironic because we don't get them anymore. But we love them because it feels like there's something beautiful that kind of culminates. And if you nail that, it's great. If you don't, it's bad, as we also saw with Rise of Skywalker. But I think that we can never have that with Star Wars now, to your point, Charles. And an Oscar,
not unless they do something completely different. Now, if they do a new show that takes place in the Old Republic or the High Republic, using no character you've ever seen before, and tell a really original story with really interesting sets that are completely original, no desert planets, no snow planets, like, you know, if they do all of that, then maybe these snobs in the movie community will say, oh yeah, it's original, let's watch it, you know. And
I think that's why Andor got the nominations it did.
Exactly. It's the first thing that's different than anything else you've ever seen before. So, I mean,
Whereas, like right now, like my hot take, Succession is gonna win most of its
everything.
Emmys.
Yes,
because
but everybody says
its final
season. It's the best. People are saying it's the best TV shows made in the last decade. I mean, like, I get it. I mean, I get it, but like, it is also a little. Do you think that maybe the fact that the way the movie industry works has got like a role in this. Like these people
Yes.
that are on these
Let's take 'em
boards
down.
and
Let's do
make
it.
all these votes, like
Yeah.
they are all part of this very corporate system. And do you think that they see like a not an indie film, but a film that pushes the boundary and is a little bit different, and they know that that's nothing that they could ever create. Like they could never create that because they're part of this corporate system. Do you think it's like out of like a sense of guilt or like loss, like, or imposter syndrome, even maybe that's why they choose those types of projects? Because Everything Everywhere All at Once won so many awards this year.
Yeah.
And like, it's a little goofy to me to see that, like, I don't know. It just feels like every single time these award shows come around, like there's numerous awards. You're just like, really? Like that's what beat this other thing? Like, I mean, yeah, that was fine, but like,
Yeah.
did they actually just get that award because they had not won one yet? Like, what's the Freaky Friday actress that won?
Jamie Lee Curtis,
Yeah, she won
The
what?
Freaky
Best
Fri-
actress?
the Freaky Friday actress.
yeah,
That's
that's what I
incredible.
noticed.
Jamie Lee
What a
Curtis as
moment.
the Freaky Friday
I know. It's the first movie that came to my head. Shut the
Holy
hell up.
crap.
All right. Come on.
Ooh.
Yeah.
She
I mean,
won like
there
Best
is
Actress or something, right? And it was
supporting
like,
actress. Yeah, because
Why?
it is
Why?
that it's about time for older folks and things. But I think you make a great point about the movie
Dumb.
industry and the television industry as a whole. Is that these last few years of franchise entertainment, I feel like we've been filling the bubble. Right, we've had the bubble of superhero films and action films and IP and DC and Marvel and Star Wars, and like we've been filling it, and then we had highs like Endgame. Oh my God, incredible! And The Last Jedi, this is great. Like we're getting great stuff happen, and then I feel like the bubble is right at its limit now, where we can get a great film like Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny, right? Which we all that have seen it enjoyed tremendously, but it is now being seen as like this with the computers and the algorithms, like a flop
failure.
because it cost $300 million and it's only making $300 million at a certain point, and they're going to lose money. And I think to your point, Corey, all these people that are trying to figure out what projects they fund and what they do with their IPs are trying to figure out not what can we innovate the most and try to get awarded. It's we need to be able to make back now $300 million.
I know.
So how can we get the largest net? And Charles, we were talking off mic a little about how frustrated this makes you.
Yeah, but honestly, for me, I think the most frustrating part is seeing just the general conversation become that like Dial of Destiny is a flop. Now, I'm biased. We would all be biased. We all love Indiana Jones. It was like literally one of the most magical movie experiences I've had in a long time to see Harrison on the big screen like that again.
Oh, yeah.
Probably since seeing him in The Force Awakens. But it is frustrating to me because it's like it makes sense for the industry to talk about movies that way, or for like
Sure.
the actual group, whether it's Disney or whatever, who makes the movie. That makes sense to say like, man, we lost money or we barely broke even. What's weird to me is that you see it make its way into like the Twitter discourse from fan accounts and like
Yeah.
all these different accounts. It's like, yeah, this movie was a flop, and it's like, time out, dude. Like, did you not go and see maybe one of Harrison's like last bows on the big screen and it was actually an incredible movie?
Yeah.
And yeah, it just isn't making money. So it's weird to me that you cross those. It's almost like we've crossed those lines here, and I think part of the problem there is us as like creators to a degree, just thinking like, oh yeah, like we need to think like the industry does. But
It's we. Hi, we're the problem. It's we.
yeah, exactly.
that.
But like, so here's a thought experiment for you guys real quick. If
Hit me.
Thought bomb.
if the next Star Wars project, you can only have 2 out of these 3 things.
Okay.
Universally beloved by the fandom.
Okay.
Everyone just thinks it's off the charts great.
All right,
Yep.
that's
Wins a
impossible.
bunch
Next.
of major awards.
Yep.
Wins a bunch of major awards like Emmys or Oscars or whatever it is, or makes a crap ton of money. You can have 2 out of the 3. Which 2 do you choose and why?
Not the
First,
You
money.
have to live. You have to
Not
live with
the
the
awards.
consequences
Yeah.
of whichever one you don't choose.
Yeah. Well, so I'll say the first 2, but I will acknowledge what that means by not having the third, because universal acclaim and wins a bunch of awards. To me, that is like the A24ification of movies right now. That's like your Everything Everywhere All at Once is. That's like Blumhouse, like Get Out. That's like a lot of these Oscar movies that I love. which says to me that's kind of also what Andor was, where like the reviews are great, the streaming numbers from what we heard weren't awesome, but like now it's getting awards, like it's a good product. However, that means if it didn't make its money back because of the way Star Wars works now, likely that creator would not be given another project, or the next movie would be different. But I think this is true, but I want to hear, I'm interested to see if you guys agree with me. Because of how much stuff we're getting now, that's just stuff, I'd rather have one amazing movie and then not get stuff for quite a while they figure it out, rather than getting kind of like, it's like a 70%, like every other year.
What is that?
Yeah.
Like Rotten Tomatoes. Like it's like a 70. It's good. It's fine. You know, it's doable, but I'd rather get like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
That
Marvel's
doesn't
the
make
best example of this, because Loki was an amazing show. And literally every other show that they've made has been like a 6 or 7 out of 10 in my eyes. Like,
That's fair.
Like, some of them are fun, and I've enjoyed watching them, and I watch
they're
them
good watch.
Wednesday when they come out, and you know it's worth it to me. But like Loki was really
a
good.
show, proper
it was
show.
a good show. It was a proper show, and like, so what do they do for that? They don't do for the other content. You know what I mean? So like, I definitely think that's a good example though, Charles, because like those are the metrics that people care about, is like money, awards, and
Exactly.
numbers. So
what if it makes it sets a bad precedent, because if it makes a lot of money, wins a lot of awards, you're almost guaranteed to continue that franchise or start something else with that team. But the movie, show, or whatever could be a flop, and it could actually suck, but make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so you were like, made a lot of money. I mean, we got to continue this. And that just sets you make that snowball heavier and heavier as it goes downhill. And then you're stuck with, you made a lot of money, but you're stuck with some crap content, and people, it happens.
It raises the question of responsible consumerism too. Right?
That's true.
I mean,
well, then, I mean, JG makes a great point in the chat that obviously is on everyone's mind this week with the strikes, is that studios apparently have lost the ability to budget franchises right now. They clearly don't pay their writers or their actors because they're striking about it, but these movies still cost $300 million. And these shows, like Andor season 1, cost $250 million. And I'm like,
it's crazy.
The answer... Go ahead.
What was the drama with Marvel too? That something about the VFX
studios
budgets were just
years,
like literally insane.
Yeah, they've overworked their VFX people to the point of like ridiculously, like basically unsafe work environments, and drastically underpaid them. So that's why people say, why does Marvel's movies like look worse the last couple of years, just from a practical standpoint? The deadlines, because they've been pumping out content, has been going crazy. And you can try to pay someone more, but there's only so many hours that exist.
It's just it's like this abuse of VFX too, right? I saw this picture on I think Twitter this week of like Samuel L. Jackson in what's the new show?
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion, where he's sitting in front of a CGI. He's sitting in a chair in front of a green screen, and they CGI the entire background in front of him, and they CGI'd his gun and his clothes, and like.
Do you know why they did that though?
Why?
There's an answer. Because props people are union, set people are union, VFX people are not.
Interesting.
So they don't have to pay them union dues. So it's cheaper. So I think ultimately the real answer that they're not going to do for franchise IP to kind of help this thing is do more low budget stuff, and that can't
more
be low budget
stuff.
Like use the sets and people.
There also needs to be more reuse as well. I saw a really strong argument for that as well. That so many movies nowadays are literally use the entire set one time, and you never use it ever again. Like they spend millions and millions of dollars. Like, why does every Star Wars film cost as much money as it does? Like, how many freaking full-scale X-Wings have we made now? You know what I mean? Like, and I know they reuse a lot of the props and that sort of thing, but like, it just seems insane to me that we can spend so much money on these studios and these budgets, and like
doing things on location at different locations and trucking all that crap and getting it all set up and paying the local labor fees or whatever, although some maybe less than others. Instead of doing it in studio, like say like on lots or something, it makes a huge difference in cost. I don't know if this is, of course, this is me. I don't know if y'all seen the American Gladiators documentary.
I just missed it, Wes. I just missed it.
They did during the actual shooting, like when they were off, they would do a tour around all the cities, and they were making all kinds of money. But they also had these 8 to 10 big ass trucks that carried the set with them everywhere it went, and they just broke even. They weren't making any money, so they weren't able to pay a lot of people, and they just basically bounced checks. So like doing movies like on location and changing locations and then going back to studio, all that kind of stuff adds to that cost. I mean, somebody's got to pay for it.
If only there were just millions of dollars somewhere in these studios that you could pull from, and I'm talking just millions of dollars.
Yeah, about 35 or so.
For example, it's.
I get it. I mean, it's I get it. It's easy for us to sit here in our armchairs.
Oh,
and, bitch and moan about
I'd fix it this way.
How much money they spend. But there are so many examples of unbelievably good films that did not cost $300 billion to make that not every single film has to cost that. Like,
no.
Listen, the pandemic has changed movies, right?
Yes,
like
fundamentally.
Cinema has still not come back. The numbers have still not come back. I have not,
This
Eric,
week they're back. Barbenheimer revives the industry. Get ready.
Happen. It's not going to happen.
I mean, it is so far. 40,000 people.
Yeah, the super hyper film nerd community is never going to change, but that is a small community compared to, what it takes to recoup a $300 million film, right? Yeah. Like, if you had told me that the Indiana Jones movie was going to cost $300 million, and was not going to make that back, I would not be surprised at all. Yeah, like that doesn't shock me at all. Like it's not the size of the budget that makes the film. It's just
no. Well, and also right now there's so many more offerings. Like the Super Mario Brothers movie made $1.4 billion. And like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 made almost $1 billion. Little Mermaid made over 700 million. Like I think that we're getting movies back, but when the movies cost also as much to go now for families, you're a family, you're picking one movie a month, dude. Something like that.
Yeah, if you're
that's
movie
way
family,
too much.
Like,
yes, sorry.
Man, growing up, I went to the movies 2 or 3 times a year max. So I think that's wow. JG said the budget for Everything Everywhere All at Once was $25 million. That
$25 million.
Impressive.
And it looked like that. And it looked great.
It looks great. I know. There's a lot of bloat in modern movie making. And I think this is fundamentally, to bring this back to Star Wars, this is fundamentally the problems that George Lucas had with the movie industry, right? I have another quote. I'm going to read you because I pulled a bunch of quotes.
Hit it.
He said, I did the most stupid thing that anybody can do in the movie business. Anybody in the movie business knows not to do this because you already know that there's suckers out there, and anybody that invests in a movie is a sucker. I said, I will now take over and finance my own pictures because they cannot touch me. They cannot come in and recut it afterwards. They can't make notes on the script. They can't do anything. Obviously talking about, the big studios. He also said artists don't make money. If you really want to make money, you shouldn't be here. You should be painting. You can do one of those paintings, mostly a white canvas or whatever, and make $50 million. We don't make $50 million on our movies. I mean, we don't make $50 million on a movie. Yeah. So like, in my favorite quote, all about money, movies don't make money. I got news for you. All the money's in the action figures. If you own the movie, which I came to do, you make a lot of money, but you have to own it. But that means you have to put the money in. And I think that is fundamentally the problem here is greed. These gigantic studios want to put in, 50 million and take a $1 billion profit. You know what I mean? And they all want to pat themselves on the back and say, look what we did. We made this incredibly expensive film and it made so much money. And all the people came because we made it so big and so expensive. That's why they came. And like, it's just crazy, dude, that like it hasn't changed. Nothing has changed since the 70s when George Lucas created Star Wars. It's still the big giant evil capitalistic companies pushing their agendas.
I definitely agree with that, and not to absolve the studios of their problems, because I think they're hugely to blame for this, but I do think it also is in how society has changed and our short-term memory loss, basically, where we have to have constant stimulation from this and that. Like, look at how like weird and the dichotomy of like Barbie and Oppenheimer that you're talking about, that it has like, you know, Twitter and social media ablaze for like what's probably going to be 3 weeks. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. And the same thing goes for us, even within a niche community like Star Wars. Like, most of us have watched The Mandalorian, Andor once through, and we're the hardcore fans. And it's because there's always the next thing, always the next thing. So it's our short attention span. It's the sheer amount of content that they pump out. And then they just seem to be throwing their wallets and their purses at every single one of these projects. I mean, it's an absolute recipe for disaster.
They want every film to be Avengers, right?
And
that might never happen again in human history. I mean,
they worked for a decade, built up 30 films, and they did it, and they nailed it. But also now you have the idea where like these Star Wars movies and franchise movies were always run by like younger people that wanted, their parents brought them in, or they wanted to go see it as teenagers. Like, I would go see a movie on like a Wednesday with friends. Like, I would do that. But now you can stay at home and infinitely scroll TikTok and get constant new content for 5 hours for free. Go play Fortnite for free.
Or honestly, watch the movie itself a month later because they pull it from theaters because it wasn't doing super well.
45 days until VOD.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Give me 3 month runs again.
Do you remember what it was like? How long you had to wait when a movie like came out on VHS
DVD?
Or DVD?
Dude, it was like 6 months to a year. Dude, Matt Damon's rant about that on Hot Ones is like top tier. Have you guys heard that?
Hunting. It's incredible.
Yeah, he talks about DVDs, and like DVDs used to be the thing, but now that's off the table, and streaming services have ruined that because like used to, any losses that you made on the film, like that's not actually where the money was. The money was in the sales after the movie came, right? So like, but now that doesn't exist because no one buys a hardcover
Napoleon
hard copies anymore. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, you know, I think the industry is going to have a major wake-up call in the next 5 to 10 years because streaming services are not making money like they're supposed to be. There are way too many of them, and they are all equally terrible. They're all equally good, but they're all equally terrible because they're all splitting the profits. Like, they're all splitting like the projects. Like, some things have some things. Hulu's got Futurama. Star Wars is on Disney Plus. You know what I mean? So it's got their own stuff, and it's too spread out, and nobody's going to the movies anymore. So like, I think if they want to figure this shit out, they're going to have to embrace a future that I've been saying for a long time that I don't think that they're ever going to get on board with. Is I think that the future of movie consumption is not in the theater. I think in our lifetime, we're going to see that. And yes, that makes people sad.
I disagree.
A lot of people really sad, makes people upset. But I think that's what we have to do it. I think that's going to be the future. Is that a better experience? No, it's absolutely not a better experience. It's absolutely not a better experience, but that is what consumers are used to because, as Charles is saying, society has changed now. There is so much dopamine on this stupid little box that I have in my hand now that like, why would I pay $50? It's going to get more expensive, by the way. Why would I pay $50 for me and my spouse to go see a movie?
Well,
like
we'll get on the A-list and sneak in your own snacks.
I was going to pre-boost Eric here, but I think it's more like it's a destination. It's a thing to do. It's not like, I have to take in this content because it came out. This is something for me to leave the house. This is an event I'm going to have with my friends, my family, whomever.
I get that.
And you're not going to do it every single day. You can go see, you could probably watch the movies that come out that you don't kind of really want to see. But like movies you want to see, you want to make that as an event. And to be able to make that as an event, you have to leave the house and go somewhere that has technology, screens, whatever that you don't have. And
I think what we're seeing is that overall, if we want that to happen, if we want the theater experience to be good, and if we want, like, even if it's not streamers, these shows, like to bring it back to the start of it all, if we want them to be award worthy in IP, if we want them to be able to be made, we've seen a couple of consistent things. Above all is a singular voice, right? People that write and direct their own shows, or the showrunner is also the scriptwriter, like Tony Gilroy is Andor. George Lucas was Star Wars, him and Kasdan, right? They did all these partnerships. If you're consistent, Loki was a single person. Like, those also take risks, though. Because if that one person messes up and the studio figures out you did something wrong, then you can't outsource it. Which is why I think that we have shows where 8 different writers and 10 different directors happen to try to be safe. But if you get one person with a consistent vision making something budgetarily conscious, then you can risk more and actually try to do more things where your movie can be in a theater and doesn't have to make $800 million. It can make $120 million. And that's fine. It can be on a streamer or hopefully on something slightly better in the future. Yeah. And you don't need it to be the top 5 show of the year to break even. You know, only 5 shows going to be top 5. You know, like you can just be a show.
I think as sad as it is, I think the future is fairly bleak, though.
Oh, absolutely. We can agree on that. Just in general,
that's a pretty.
We're
negative,
all going down.
I mean, I think it's a negative take, but like I think the future of movie making is pretty bleak, and I think that is a testament to the way that society is changed in our consumption. I think Charles, you're dead on with that. I mean, I think that going to the movies, like you say, is an event, Wes. But I don't think if people are going to want to spend that money on that event in the future. That's what I'm saying. It's like the event hasn't changed.
Anything to say about it.
Huh?
That is
not if I have anything to say about it.
That's like the fundamental question that this whole podcast is about, right? Because with going to the movies, you're paying for a ticket. Paying for that ticket is helping the actors and I guess the movie studios as well, obviously. But with the streaming services, you're paying a monthly fee whether you like it or not. Like they're not getting anything extra. So that's the whole. I guess that's the whole problem. behind this.
To save the future, we have to go back to the past.
That is correct.
Well, here's my last question I want to ask you guys.
Step into my DeLorean, Charles. I have it in the.
Regarding
88 miles an hour.
Yeah, we don't need roads. Regarding the consumption of new content, because streamers make it accessible, right? Andor episode comes out, Clone Wars episode goes out, you can watch whenever. Oh, God, would you guys rather go back to like the iTunes model of every time there's a new episode of Andor, it's 99 cents. Every time there's a new episode of Mandalorian, it's 99 cents. So every show you watch, maybe you don't spend, if you watch less than 10 episodes of new TV, maybe you spend less, but you don't have access to everything all the time.
I think that streaming is definitely here to stay. I think they have to figure out how to make that model viable. It's definitely here to stay.
I agree.
But I don't think that's the solution is to go back to the iTunes model. I think the solution is if they're already trying to break their own rules. They're already saying that hey, we're not going to do the direct to streamer services. We're not going to do that, direct to Netflix thing. We're not going to do that, but we're only going to wait 1 month until we put it on a streaming service.
And we'll pull it whenever we want, by the way. It might just be gone next week. Too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, JG pointed that out earlier because they just randomly delete content to get tax breaks, which is insane to me. So
that's dystopian right there.
Yeah, that's not no, I don't think that we can pay for the individual shows, but if they're going to already put shit on streaming services in such a short period of time, then I don't see why there's so much resistance to putting stuff direct to streaming platforms make you pay for it. Like Disney Plus has done a handful of times. That has been an interesting experiment.
It's got to be financial.
The theater people, I guess so. The theater people are going to go to the theater, but I haven't seen Indiana Jones yet. I've tried for 4 days in a row. I've tried to go, but I've just not been able to make it happen. So what I paid
for, problem, my guy.
I know. I set myself
I can't.
That movie.
I can't. Would they lock you in from the outside?
Were you trying to plug it in on the sim rig? Were you trying to drive there?
Yeah.
Was it raining and you didn't want to drive? Is that
the
what
car won't crank up? I don't know. It needs more gas.
Will somebody help this poor man? He's trying to see Indiana Jones.
But he's making
the time
a good
cost.
Point, though. It's time cost, and it's that you had more accessible stuff at your fingertips. You didn't have to
exactly.
Leave. It's inconvenient.
I had more stuff. Yeah, it's massively inconvenient. I'm like, listen, I got 1 week off before I have to go work 12-hour shifts again, and I'm like, I got this expensive ass sim rig already in my house. I need to play with it more. Yep. I have just as much fun playing Fortnite with you guys than I do. Going to the movie. So I haven't the value there, the value
Mhm.
proposition of going to the movies does not exceed the
Ooh.
things I already have accessible at my fingertips. You know what I did do this week? I watched
Mhm.
Raiders of the Lost Ark and I watched The Temple of Doom to try to because I
One
was
of those
planning
was
on
a
going to
great
see it.
choice.
I know. I was planning to go see it, but like I didn't. Right. And
Yeah.
I can't be alone in that. I know I'm not a diehard movie
no.
guy, but I know that like there's got to be a pretty damn large percentage of Americans that like I can tell you for a fact, if it had been on Disney Plus and it cost $30, I wouldn't have hesitated. I would have watched that shit this week.
Well, JG makes a great point. Exactly that, because Disney did that same day premiere during COVID, and they did it for Mulan. They did it for a couple others, and they lost hundreds of millions of dollars because it just didn't work out.
It was COVID. It doesn't count. Nothing that happened in 2020 and 2021 like counts.
But people were stuck inside and still didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that but I think Alex makes a good point. I think that the alternative to that is the more leisurely experience, like with an Alamo Draft House, where they bring you food. And all of my movie theaters now, every single one has like the automatic recliner seats. Yep. So that's what I also like. It's small, but like when I go see a movie now, I am more physically comfy than I am in my own home.
Yeah, I think the experience is going to have to change. I mean, I think that like
they got to up it.
And like also that's a terrible. I don't think that it's just as simple as like they tried it already, it didn't work. Like there's no way. Like there's a lot of reasons people might not have gone to see Mulan.
Yeah.
In theaters.
Oh no, it wasn't good.
Also, it was in the pandemic, and that doesn't count. So like
it was bad.
But the Black Widow film also went straight to streaming services.
Yep.
And bombed, did terrible.
Yep.
Like people, they said that it was a disaster, that nobody purchased it. And I don't know. I think the future is bleak though. Regardless, I think they're gonna have to figure out how to make the streaming services work.
Yeah.
If they want movies to make the money.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
It's corporate greed. Like at the end of the day, all of the stuff we keep talking about, like with how do they recoup costs? How do they help making sure that they have good people making the stuff? It unfortunately literally comes down to if the heads of the studios just give away a little, not even give away, just don't make as much of the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, they can redistribute the wealth and make things better and even stuff out. So we can, and we will, we're going to keep talking about it because unfortunately, given the, what is it called? The entirety of human history, that doesn't happen. I don't know, maybe we can hope for it. I think it's bleak, but I also think that the fact that all this is going on at a point when we haven't had a shift this big in 60 years union-wise and have never seen something like the invention of streaming happen, I think these next 3 to 5 years are going to be really, really interesting to see how do movies get to people, how do shows get to people, and how do these award shows start to balance the idea that franchises might start making things that are a little bit different and a little riskier. Because I think looking at Star Wars ahead, given that we're getting shows with all new characters like Skeleton Crew, given that we're getting movies that, yes, there's a Rey movie, but there's a back in time Jedi movie with people we don't know. Like, are these risks hopefully not going to cost $500 million?
I think the problem is that the reason The Force Awakens broke so many records that like everything after that is going to be considered a failure is a big problem.
Yeah. You can't always go for the no one except Jim Cameron can decide they got to make the most profitable movie of all time.
Who the hell is Jim Cameron? Don't ever say that to me ever.
Big
again.
Jim. Big J boy.
Jim.
Yeah, I do when we play poker together.
Is he in your contacts in your phone? You can't call him Jim. What the hell are you doing, bro?
I call him BJ for Big Jim. I say, yo, Beej, give me an Avatar 5. I think the idea that every movie, because that's the headlines. That's also our culture, right? It's like this movie has to be the biggest movie of all time, or else it fails.
I know it's ridiculous. I know it's because society sucks, man, and it's just hilarious that. It's hilarious that it's 2023 and we're still having the same conversation that George Lucas probably had with his buddies like before he made Star Wars. And he was sitting around with his film nerds in college, right? You ever seen those crazy shit that he made? It's on YouTube. You can find it. The crazy
THX
artistic
1138?
projects. That's one of them, I think. There's other stuff too.
Yeah, I watched 30
Howard
seconds
the
of that.
Duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Howard the
exactly.
Duck, yes, the classic indie non-franchise prestige film. Howard the
I
Duck.
love
They,
that
they were
movie.
that's what they were talking about, man. A bunch of hippies sitting around, man, the
Yeah.
corporate system and Fox, and they're just making these shitty movies,
Yeah.
man. And we gotta own it. We gotta sell action figures, man. That's what they were saying, you know.
Yeah.
It's my hippie George Lucas's friend impersonation.
That's pretty good. It's very solid. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I think it's very interesting that this week we got the Emmy nominations that show the height of televised art right now. At the exact same time, we got the makers of the art all saying, we need to change everything that we're doing or else we're not going to make anything for you.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
it's a very interesting confluence of
it's
events.
a very the movie industry is an absolutely a top down industry, and it always has been for the last 100 years. And it's hard for me to see a future in which it's not always like this, but there has to be a hopeful future.
Yep. There will be a negotiation because I mean, studios can't go without new content for a year. Like they
They
can't
figure out. You got to figure out AI. That's the thing that's really got to figure that shit out. Like, I mean, I'm all for using tools and using AI and making human life easier, but like people have to be able to own what makes them human, and that pisses me off.
just pay people, man. Just
pay them, man.
just
Like
pay 'em. You got the money.
You're spending $300 million on
Yeah.
stupid shit. Like, just pay them. Come on. How much are you gonna
got
have
the
to
money.
pay the extra to use the AI anyway? Because like these people are
Less
broke.
than Iger makes in an hour. Straight up.
Like probably less than 50 grand for their entire life to use the likeness of somebody in the background of a movie. Like straight up. It's not that much money. Like
Yeah.
it's dumb.
Yep.
They want to pay people $100 and then let Adobe do it for them. And that makes me mad.
Yep. And we'll see what happens with it. I think we're gonna follow this franchise, and there are people that clearly want to create good stuff with it, and there are people that, by the virtue of their passion for the work, create things that attract the masses and attract people that like good art. And I think that's great to see. I'm proud of Star Wars for putting out good stuff. And I hope that at the end of the day, even if all this stuff just gets a person that doesn't care about the strikes or doesn't care about the movie theater experience, doesn't care whatever, hopefully they see an Obi-Wan or an Andor or something pop up and be like, oh, I guess that might be good. Maybe I should check out this Star Wars thing. That's a win for all of us, you know?
Yeah.
And then pay people to make more of it because Andor season 2 ain't coming, baby.
They need
If
a
we don't
they
get
need
to
a
the table.
Robin Hood in the ranks.
Absolutely.
Read all that wealth.
Speaking of Andor, Tony Gilroy's comments were like hero shit. Did you guys see
Oh
some of that
yeah.
stuff? I mean, he
Yeah,
was
dude,
like,
because he was interviewed for the Emmys. They're like, "What do you think about Andor?" He's like, "Nah, shut up. I'm gonna talk about the strike."
yeah, that's what he did. And I was like, damn, this guy is
He's a king.
great. He's unfortunately never gonna make a Star Wars ever again. But
No, he's got one story in him. He's like, "I'm gonna make it, and then I'm gone." Good for you, man. Well, we're gonna see how all these pop up. Again, in the meantime, the good news is that we got a lot of stuff coming still. You know, Inquisitor comes out tomorrow for Bookwise, and Ahsoka does come out next month. We're going to be talking about it. As we said earlier in the show, if you tuned in late, we're checked with the guilds. Everything's good. We're going to review and talk about the show. But in your own lives, let us know what your thoughts are about the future of all this stuff. Do these awards matter to you personally? Did you start watching Star Wars because The Mandalorian got an Emmy nomination? Like, do you know someone? My dad did, straight up. He watched The Mandalorian because of that. And I think it's always interesting to see how folks came to it. And do you think that any of this stuff is going to affect what we have going on further? Other than burn it all to the ground, capitalism is a hellscape. Any final thoughts, guys, on the future of movies? Maybe we'll all go on a rainy car ride with Charles and just kind of feel it.
I don't want to do that.
Just simulate it.
You guys can go. Just simulate it.
Corey's going to rainy car ride in your simulator. Turn your lights off, light some candles.
I do have like 20 miles of the Pacific Coast Highway on my sim rig that you can just drive. It's pretty wild.
I'm really excited for you to move here. That's really the reason I'm getting here, so I can go in the sim rig. That's all it's going to be.
It's pretty badass. It's going to blow your mind.
Well, everyone, I'll tell you what. This week, turn on one of your favorite shows. Get those streaming numbers up. Get some folks some residuals because Lord knows they need everything they can possibly get. And look forward to the future with us. Maybe movie theaters will die. Maybe they're going to be vibrant. But above all, make sure you go see Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'll let you know how they are next week because on that note, that's all that we got because that'll do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. You support us on Patreon. Thank you so much. Go to patreon.com/UCNE to join the family. And a special thank you goes out to Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Carl Sander, Zach W, Michael Fry, and Raymond Bazensky on our Jedi High Council, and James T, Ashley Ingalls, Colton Fife, and Chris Carrizo on our Alliance High Command. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson. Corey is at Corey M. Helton. Charles is at C. Hanko. Wes is at Boss West. And the show is at Living Force Pod. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for potting with me. Thanks to all of you for watching. And as always, may the Force be with you.